We all know Luffy as the fun-loving, optimistic, and carefree protagonist that he is. But what if one day he snaps and is no longer the Luffy we know? What if Luffy turned evil and One Piece shifted from a hero trying to achieve his dreams to the story of a broken pirate avenging something dear to him? For Luffy turning evil, there must be a turning point in his journey that just completely broke him. And what better tragedy than losing his brother, Portgas the Ace? So it begins at Marineford. The war is over. Ace and Whitebeard are dead. Luffy, severely injured and unconscious, is carried to safety by Trafalgar Law. But this time, something inside Luffy breaks beyond repair. When he wakes up, he doesn't cry, he doesn't scream, he doesn't want to become Pirate King, he doesn't laugh, he's not excited about getting to eat meat, he just stares in front. For the first time, he is completely stoic and somewhat concentrated on something: revenge. During his recovery, Luffy reflects on every moment of failure, every time he was too weak to save Ace. The burning guilt inside him keeps getting bigger and bigger, and now he doesn't want anything but revenge. Not just against the man who killed his brother, Akagami, but against the world government, and even beyond that, the entire world. This, after all, is one of the classic tropes in anime. Most elite villains we see are not bad from birth. They are just broken beyond repair due to a traumatic or a series of traumatic events that occurred in their lives. Similar to Luffy, this was the trigger. Ace's death turned Luffy from this funny and goofy character into an apathetic, cold, blood-seeking maniac seeking to hurt as many people as possible. He begins to question everything. Why do pirates like Ace have to die, while monsters like the Celestial Dragons live comfortably in Mariejois? Why did Garp, his own grandfather, let it happen? Why are the people at the top always untouched? Why did his childhood hero Shanks arrive in the battlefield only moments after Ace was killed? Why couldn't he appear a few moments earlier? He was strong enough to save Ace from getting killed. In this scenario, Luffy doesn't train with Rayleigh for 2 years to become stronger so he can protect his friends. He vanishes. He goes dark. Kinda like how Sasuke and Naruto went dark and came back insanely stronger. Yeah, Sasuke did train with Orochimaru in the Naruto series, but that's not the point here. Here, Luffy just goes insane. He does nothing other than train and think of what he can do to take revenge, who to hurt, and how to get to them. And not only that, in this scenario, Luffy is willing to take shortcuts as well. Remember the performance-enhancing drugs Hody Jones was taking? Yeah, Luffy starts abusing similar drugs as well. And even though these will definitely shorten his lifespan, they do indeed make him exceptionally stronger. The Straw Hats, on the other hand, are scattered as usual, but this time, Luffy doesn't reunite with them. He cuts ties. He leaves them behind. He knows they wouldn't follow him down the path he's about to take, and quite frankly, he kinda stopped caring about them as well. That's how insane he's become. Rumors start to spread about a lone pirate ship tearing through marine bases, destroying islands, and killing anyone who was a part of the world government or the Marines. Throughout all this chaos, only a figure in a straw hat was seen walking through the smoke. You thought Luffy's bounty was high now? Oh, it skyrockets now. Not only because Luffy is more powerful than in the original timeline, but also because the bounty depends on how violent someone is as well. With all this in mind, Luffy's bounty is in the billions from way earlier in the story. Someone could argue that Luffy being stronger in this timeline does not make sense. Well, let me remind you that obsession and the feeling of rage and revenge are some incredibly powerful motivators for people. And don't forget that Luffy always showed a natural proficiency in hockey. He just needed someone to help him channel and control it. Now, he does it on his own. Countless and countless hours of training his body, mind, and soul have turned Luffy into a killing machine. Luffy's devil fruit powers evolve with his mindset as well. No longer held by any sort of compassion, he pushes his powers to a terrifying new height. His body becomes more fluid, more unpredictable, and his attacks more brutal. With each of his gears, he does not use them for fun and bouncing, but more for brutal destruction. Instead of sailing to Dressrosa or Punk Hazard, Luffy begins targeting key marine outposts. His strategy is cold and efficient. He strikes at night, he eliminates entire crews, he doesn't declare war, and he doesn't fly a flag. His ship, now renamed the Nightmare Sunny, sails silently, eliminating anything that crosses its path. And even beyond that, in some occasions when he sees a familiar face, as in someone that took part during the war, he doesn't just kill them, he tortures them. He doesn't even care if that person had nothing to do with Ace's death. Maybe they were just a low-ranking Marine following orders. It doesn't matter to Luffy. If someone was present during Marineford, Luffy makes them wish they were never born. As far as his crew now, well, without his old one, Luffy builds a new one, composed of the discarded and the betrayed, former slaves, disgraced Marines, and pirates who lost everything to the system. They don't just follow him out of loyalty, they follow him because he gets results. Taking a look at his new allies, we can find Jin, the former Krieg pirate turned rogue mercenary, Jewelry Bonnie, who lost someone in the reverie. And even though she did not turn out evil in the original timeline, well, Luffy now gets to her and convinces her to join him in his dark quest. Even Daz Bones joins him, intrigued by Luffy's new ruthlessness. Together, they're not just a pirate crew, they are a revolution against the whole system. Meanwhile, the world government begins to panic. The Revolutionary Army has always been a threat, but this is different. Luffy isn't playing politics. He's not trying to change the world, he's trying to burn it down. Akainu becomes Fleet Admiral, as is canon, but now his #1 priority isn't Blackbeard or the Yonko. It's stopping Monkey D. Luffy. The Marines put a 2 billion berry bounty on his head. And what's Luffy's reaction to all of this? Well, he doesn't care at all. He's not in it for the treasure. His goal is simple: tear down the world government. And the first step, taking down the celestial dragons. Luffy wants to infiltrate Mariejois. And how does he plan on doing that? By raiding Impel down. His goal is to free everyone and have them join him. Whoever refuses, he'll just kill him right then and there. Luffy's now faced off against Magellan once more, but things are way different now. Luffy is now an expert in hockey with access to 4 gears. Luffy defeats Magellan, and chaos is about to erupt. Prisoners are released, guards are slaughtered, and Magellan is left for dead. The next stop is Mariejois. Luffy is seen walking in through the front gates. He doesn't even bother hiding. He's here and he means business. Along with Luffy, hundreds of wanted and highly dangerous criminals. The Holy Land is reduced to chaos. While no one expected this, the Gorosei scramble to contain the damage, and Imu watches from the shadows. The Gorosei try to find and kill Luffy, but in all this chaos, Luffy achieved his goal and then fled on a ship. And when he thinks he's finally in the clear, well, as it turns out, he's not. Luffy is now clearly out of control, right? And what does this mean? Garp decides to intervene. While trying to flee Mariejois, Garp finds him and challenges him to a fight. Luffy accepts gladly. Even more than that, he replies that he wanted to fight him as well. He blames him as well for not helping to save Ace that day. He chose the Marines over his family, so now he'd better be ready to fight whatever family he's got left. No help, no other crewmates or Marines involved. Luffy versus Garp. Grandson versus grandfather. Garp wants to stop this madness, while Luffy wants to prove to his grandpa that he cannot stop him, while also teaching him a lesson for leaving Ace to die. The battle begins, and it is fierce. Think of the Garp versus Aokiji fight, but better. Keep in mind, Luffy still does not have access to 5th gear, but generally given the harsh training he endured and the drugs he's been taking, he's now around the level he was when he fought Kaido in the original story, right before the 5th gear awakening. But is all that enough to defeat Garp? Possibly, but even if it's not, the outcome is the same. Even if Garp is stronger, he does not have the heart to kill Luffy. Luffy manages to come out on top, but before he lands the finishing blow, which by the way, we're not even sure if he would have the heart to do such a thing, another crew appears, the Red Hair Pirates. Shanks tells Luffy that he made a mistake that day, giving him the straw hat, and that he disappointed him, and it's his duty to put a stop to this madness. Luffy is now faced against the Red Hair Pirates. However, he knows he cannot do this right now. He just barely escaped from the world government and then straight on fought against Garp. Even with drugs, he's still exhausted. He engages in a short battle with Shanks, but the first chance he gets, he escapes. You see, the Marines are still on Luffy's tail, and after all this commotion, they finally catch up to him. This creates the perfect distraction for Luffy to escape, as Shanks is also a target of the world government if they think he was somehow involved in the Mariejois incident that Luffy had caused. Thus, Luffy manages to escape, but not before telling Shanks something disturbing. We'll meet again. Don't worry, I'm saving you for last. You could have saved Ace if you arrived earlier, but you didn't. What was more important than saving the son of your captain? Once I give everyone what they deserve, I'll be coming for you, and then we'll finish what we started. Once I kill you, I'll give you your damn straw hat back as well. Shanks listens, shocked at how lost Luffy has become. Deep down, he feels guilty, but most of all, he cannot believe how much Luffy has changed. He nods and tells Luffy that he will be waiting for him. Back on the Grand Line, pirate crews began disbanding preemptively. No one wanted to be caught in Luffy's path. Marine rookies refused assignments to bases near his last known location, and his name became more myth than man. A ghost story told to terrify young recruits and silence rebellious pirates. The people, though, were divided. Some still remember the smiling boy who fought for friends, toppled tyrants, and laughed in the face of death. But others, especially those saved by his chaotic crusade, hailed him as a necessary evil. To former slaves and opposed kingdoms, he wasn't a villain. He was justice incarnate. Brutal, absolute, unapologetic. A dark, mysterious messiah. Even the Revolutionary Army felt it. Dragon, Luffy's father, now watched from the shadows, conflicted. He had always believed change would come through pressure, through resistance. But his son had chosen another route, annihilation. Some in the army wanted to follow Luffy's lead. Others feared he was making the world worse. Dragon never said a word. Not in public, not in private. He simply watched. But Luffy's absence is probably mostly felt on the countries he did not visit because of his dark path. If you recall, post-time skip, Luffy had freed, first of all, Fishman Island. Without Luffy around, the tensions between fishmen and humans grew even worse. Eventually, Hody Jones succeeds in taking control of Fishman Island and starts an offensive on the humans. Not only Luffy causes havoc with his actions, but his lack of actions cause further disturbance in the world. Every fishman naturally sides with their race, while humans side with theirs. It's a brutal war that leads to thousands of casualties. Humans are more, but fishmen are stronger, and they also have the advantage of water, aka the weakness of all devil fruit users sailing in the sea. Navigating in the sea has never been more dangerous, as just being a human means you might get attacked out of nowhere from fishmen. In Dressrosa, Doflamingo keeps doing his usual business, and well, there's no one there to stop him. Or rather, there is someone, Law. But without Luffy's help, Law's plans fail, and thus not only is Dressrosa not free, Law is taken as hostage from Doflamingo and tortured for years until he submits and agrees to perform the ageless surgery on Doflamingo. At least, that's what Doflamingo hopes. But Law's extreme hatred towards Doflamingo means that he does not break, and he doesn't accept doing that. Law remains a captive of Doflamingo for years and years to come, until someone, hopefully, defeats Doflamingo and sets him free. Now, when it comes to Egghead, without Luffy's help, all the Vegapunks are eliminated by the world government, with the sole exception of the traitor York, which it may not seem like a huge deal now, but I'm pretty sure in the future the remaining Vegapunk clones would play an important role in the canon story. Something that, well, they obviously won't be able to do now. Not only that, but in Elbaf, the Holy Knights easily manage to achieve their goals. Abduct the children they want, kill Loki, and burn the entire country. Thousands of years of history are burned, similar to what happened in Ohara. All of that, again, because of Luffy's absence. When it comes to his crewmates now, Nami built a new life on a remote island, trying to forget the screams from Marineford. Chopper returned to Drum Island, helping civilians survive the fallout of broken governments. Frankie and Usopp turned their talents to building shelters for those displaced by the war Luffy ignited. Brook played somber songs in ghost towns. Robin thought of joining the Revolutionary Army, but instead stuck together with Nami. She didn't have the heart to join another group, only to be heartbroken all over again. Jinbei sailed alone, searching for purpose in a world that no longer made sense. And then we have Zoro and Sanji. Despite their differences, they teamed up here. They are the only two left that decide that no matter what, they will find Luffy and bring some sense into him. The rest of the crew wanted to help, but the two of them objected. It would be way too dangerous for them, and someone could get killed. The two of them decided to do this alone. They were all fragments now, not of a crew, but of a memory. Each of them in their own way knew the truth. Luffy wasn't coming back, not the one they followed. That version of him had died long ago, buried in the snow of Marineford beside Ace. But Zoro and Sanji felt responsible. As the two hands of Luffy, they needed to face off against him, either stop him or die in the process. It was their duty. As the years pass, the world continues to change. Big Mom falls, along with Kaido, all by Luffy's hands. They are merely obstacles, crushed if they stand in his way. And how was Luffy strong enough to defeat them, even without any alliances like it happened in the original timeline? Well, the question here is, could Luffy awaken fifth gear under these conditions? I mean, he's truly free to the point where he could awaken his devil fruit. In a sense, yeah, he is free. He doesn't follow any rules, he does whatever he wants, even if now his desires are twisted and immoral. The only thing weird here is that the Sun God is supposed to fight with a smile on his face, but Luffy's no longer happy, right? Oh, you better believe that Luffy does still smile while fighting, but that smile's not from joy. It's a twisted, sadistic one that kinda fulfills the conditions for his devil fruit awakening. Luffy awakens his devil fruit and crushes anyone in his way. He eventually reaches Left Hill alone, but the only obstacle now? Shanks. The rematch is about to be legendary, but also heartbreaking, as one of them has to die. Out of everyone who gave up on Luffy, 3 people still held out hope, and Shanks was one of them. To the world, Shanks was a Yonko, but to Luffy, he was the beginning. The man who sacrificed his arm for the future of Luffy now watched that same future burn the world down. For a long time, Shanks remained in the shadows, quietly observing, believing that the boy he once inspired would return as a great pirate. But as the stories began to spread about, it became clear this was no phase. This was who Luffy had become. And so, Shanks waited. He knew where he would find Luffy, right before Laugh Tale. He did not want to challenge a warlord, but to confront him. The wind carried ash instead of salt, and the sky was gray. Shanks stood before him, not as an enemy, but as a man mourning the death of a dream. There was no recognition in Luffy's eyes, no spark of joy, no flicker of old bonds, just the cold stare of someone who had buried his past, along with his heart. They clashed, not as upcoming Pirate King and Yonko, but as two eras colliding, one built on hope, and the other on ruin. The battle was neither flashy nor drawn out. It was quiet and devastating. Their haki ruptured the air, but what broke more was the silence between them. Every strike was a conversation never had. Every blow a memory turned to dust. Shanks fought not to win, but to remind Luffy of who he once was. But it wasn't enough. In the end, Shanks fell, his blade cracked, his body beaten. But more than that, his belief was shattered. Luffy stood over him, not with hatred, but with apathy. Bleeding and beaten, Shanks looked up at the monster that Luffy had become. If this is what the world has made you, Shanks whispered through bloodied lips, then I'm sorry. I truly am. Luffy turned and walked away, leaving the hat that once meant everything buried under the rubble. The same hat Shanks had given him so long ago had now been discarded like a symbol that no longer held meaning. Luffy, now beaten up beyond recognition, on the verge of collapsing as well, walks towards the One Piece, and he finally gets his hands on it. The red-haired pirates disappeared after that. No revenge, no retaliation, just silence. Because even legends can grieve, and with it, any hope of saving him had gone. But while Shanks' fall sealed Luffy's descent, it also rippled across the world. For the first time, the seas felt smaller. The red-haired pirates were one of the few remaining balances in a world filled with chaos, and now their silence spoke louder than any declaration of war. But instead of joy, Luffy now laughs bitterly. Gold Roger's dream? A peaceful world? They're a joke now. Luffy takes the treasure, but he doesn't announce it. With the knowledge he gains from Laugh Tale, he sets his sights on the final throne, the one in the Room of Flowers, Mariejois. But before Luffy arrives, he does meet with someone else, Sabo. The world had changed. Fire still burned in cities Luffy left behind. His name no longer inspired joy or rebellion. It inspired fear. And yet Sabo, chief of staff of the Revolutionary Army, and Luffy's sworn brother, refused to believe that his little brother was truly gone. Sabo had heard the stories. The massacre at Mariejois, the desecration of marine bases, the rumor that even Garp had fallen to him. Still, in his heart, Sabo held onto one thing. Luffy wouldn't do this. Not truly. Not if he still remembered who he was. This encounter is the first one that truly makes Luffy hesitate. After all, he started all this because of the death of his brother. And now that the second brother, the one he thought was long dead by now, is in front of him, things start becoming even more twisted in his mind. But now Luffy is way too far gone. There's no way back now. Sabo and Luffy meet on a remote island. Luffy had stopped there temporarily alone to patch his wounds from the latest clash. No crew, no blood, just silence. And Sabo arrives alone. No army, no backup, just his pipe, his flame, and a desperate heart. Sabo realizes he can't talk Luffy down. Not like this, but he can't give up either. He ignites his hand and the battle officially begins. Not flashy, not exaggerated, just raw emotion. Sabo fights with desperation, his fire flaring with memories of their childhood. But Luffy fights with surgical precision. No joy, no banter, no holding back. Their haki clashes send shockwaves into the sea. The ground splits, trees vaporize. Luffy's punches aren't playful anymore. They're designed to kill, or at least that's what Luffy thought. Once Luffy defeats Sabo and is about to deliver the final blow, he hesitates. For the first time, Sabo is the only one that Luffy does not dare kill. Tears start running down his cheeks. He warns Sabo, "You lost to me. I will spare your life, but never show your face in front of me again." Sabo is left defeated, but alive, and Luffy returns to his crew to continue his journey with no return. For the first time ever, his mind has serious doubts whether what he does is the right thing or not. But as we said, there's no going back anymore. The final war begins. Not just pirates versus marines, but a global uprising was fueled by Luffy's actions. The Revolutionary Army joins out of necessity. Luffy versus Akainu is no longer just a battle. It's personal. And this time, Luffy wins. Not with honor, but with fury. Akainu's death is brutal, echoing Ace's fate, but reversed. At the climax, Luffy reaches the empty throne. Imu appears, a figure even he didn't expect. The final enemy, a being who had ruled through shadows, shaping history like a puppeteer pulling unseen strings. The fight is colossal. Echoes of gods clashing, time itself trembling with every blow. Imu wields centuries of secrets and darkness, but now Luffy, stripped of mercy, meets it head on. Will versus will, chaos versus control. In the end, Luffy prevails. He destroys the throne, the symbols, and the history. The world government crumbles crumbles. The celestial dragons fall. Silence follows. To the outside world, Luffy disappears. Some say he died, others say he walks the seas alone, watching the world rebuild itself from the ashes. He never became the Pirate King. The title meant nothing to him anymore. He became something else. A legend, a shadow, a man who broke the world. A name spoken in fear or reverence, depending on who you ask. But all agree on one thing. He changed everything forever. But what did really happen to him? As he was walking away from his final battle, beaten close to death, he encounters his two fellow handmen, Sanji and Zoro. This Luffy is no longer their captain. He tells Zoro he doesn't need swords, he needs silence. Zoro refuses to step aside, and a fight starts between them. Sanji keeps hold of the rest of his crew that are also severely injured. Zoro versus Luffy is now inevitable. Luffy doesn't want to be saved, not this time. Luffy, having now finally achieved all that he set out to do, fakes his battle and lets Zoro run a sword through his heart. There's nothing else for Luffy out there. Zoro kills him and fulfills his nickname, Pirate Hunter. A tragic end to a tragic anti-hero. Zoro picks up the hat and sets out to find someone worthy of becoming the next Pirate King. This cannot and will not be the end of it. The world needs to be rebuilt. People deserve justice, freedom, and they deserve a hero. And Zoro, alongside Sanji, are the ones who inherited this responsibility. Find this special someone to help the world become a better place. At the same time, however, Blackbeard finally makes his move. He waited out for everyone to exhaust each other so that he could finally get his hands on the One Piece. And that's exactly what he does. Sanji and Zoro, unable to fight and defeat the Blackbeard pirates on their own, flee. Their goal, reassemble the Straw Hat crew, and this time find a youngster to inherit Luffy's original dream. Zoro, Sanji, and Jinbei are all in charge of the ship. Blackbeard is now the Pirate King, and the world is thrown further into chaos. The darkest period known to man starts now, with Blackbeard as the Pirate King. The four Yonkos defeated, the world government in shambles, with fishmen and humans in open war, with multiple countries enslaved by greedy tyrants. The world is so messed up that it seems things are now beyond saving. Only ones that can get in the way of the Blackbeard pirates are the Revolutionary Army. And well, the world is thus thrown into further chaos as the two strongest remaining groups go all out on each other. And the fight is not just one, it spans across multiple battles in multiple locations for multiple years. And the outcome, almost impossible to predict. But the point is that it doesn't even really matter anymore. The world has become so messed up that it's almost impossible to heal. And all of that because Luffy snapped back in Marineford. One simple change, one simple push towards the wrong direction for one individual, and the entire world suffered devastating consequences. Click on this video next, where I'm analyzing the chances One Piece characters will achieve their goals. Go on, check it out!